So when you make up a pattern like that, do you just like draw, like put it on your computer and do your own graphics and everything like that?
I do draw out my own graphics. I usually start by freehanding what I want, and then kind of like the dinosaur one, I drew a dinosaur that I liked, and then was like, oh, I need to move its legs over. So I'll often like just cut the legs off and tape them over to where I want it. But I work better in actual, like actual paper and fabric first. And then, and I made a pillow first to make sure that the technique would even work. Yeah. So then my boys have that pillow that is theirs and they can play with. But then I was like, okay, this totally did work. So now I'll move it over to the computer, and then I can, I scan in my dinosaur shape that I had drawn, and then I can copy it that way.
Do you like advertise on Etsy or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't have my own pattern shop, like my own. I don't sell my patterns on my website. I direct all my traffic to Etsy for now. And I do have some ads there, but not a lot. It's just that's just where I sell. And a lot of quilt shops carry my patterns, and so if they sell on Etsy, that's fine too. So if you type in something of mine, you might find mine, or you might find one at a quilt shop, but I think it's fine because we all support each other.
So do you ever just do a normal pattern, like let's say a flying geese pattern or something, or do you just look at a pattern and decide how you can change it? Like that's what I do. I look at it and say, now what can I do with this? Yeah. I don't like following directions.
Following the rules. Yeah, I don't like following the rules either. I often change it up. So the heart quilt here behind you, or behind me, is a good example of that, because this is just a quarter square triangle pattern. So all the blocks are just this quarter square triangle. But it was actually a challenge for make a quilt using the Ohio Star block. Which is made with a quarter square triangle. But I couldn't just make an Ohio Star block.
I understand that.
I took all the components of the Ohio Star block and then I mixed them up. And this is actually a result, the exploding heart quilt. Here's the picture of the whole quilt. Ooh,
oh, cool. Oh, it's gorgeous.
But it actually started as an Ohio Star. So that's kind of funny. That's like a behind the scenes story of that one. And that's been my most popular pattern to date. And it's like tons of people are making it, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Our biggest one here is this our Freedom Flight.
Oh, yes.
Which we did off of a coloring book picture. And I love doing this kind of stuff. You know, I just take a picture and I figure out how I can, and stuff. I'm not really into doing great big quilts anymore, but I sure really love your thing. And like this panel right here, it started off, if you can see this, and I'm like, oh, that is just the most boring thing on earth. And yeah, so I just had, sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I think you're still there.
Yeah, so then, I love doing this kind of stuff. I put on about 60 appliques. But yeah, I really like what you're doing with all the adaptations and stuff. That's really
so
amazing.
Here's another example of some of my patterns. So I started out with a mini quilt. See, this is really small. This is bias tape. Have you ever used bias tape?
I have, but not like that.
Another little thing I stumbled upon, the technique of bias tape, and then I wanted to try it. So this was my trial. To see like how much you could curve bias tape and have it not like pucker and stuff. I wanted to see. So this is like what I started out as, like, let's try this thing out. So then, since my business name is Slice of Pie Quilts, I have a thing with circles, as you can tell. So I always wanted to do circles. So then I wanted to know, like, could I do a circle big and could you do little? You can. I figured that out. So then I was like, okay, so now how can I take what I learned from bias tape and translate it into a pattern? And so I actually have several patterns now that use bias tape. So this is like all folded up, but so this is the beginner bias tape pattern that I sell. It's called High Tide. And let's see if I can find the pattern.
Do you make your own bias tape?
I do, because I like to have my own colors.
Plus it's way cheaper.
I do, yeah. So here's the pattern. This one uses like beachy kind of fabric, you know, like
yeah.
But then this one's just really bright colors, so it works no matter what.
Oh, neat.
And then I have it again in this one. It's kind of fishy fabric again, but see, I even left the top curved on this one, so then you can use bias binding, and you know, try something new that way.
Right.
So this is like a beginner pattern, super easy, like just to try bias tape. But then I never let myself stop with like, just try that one time or whatever. I have to see where it keeps going. And so then I have a pattern called finial, where this is traditionally pieced, like with curved piecing to make the finial shape, or like a Christmas ornament shape.
Right.
And then you add bias tape in between all of them. So let me show you the pattern so you can see it better. So here's how it ends up working out.
Oh my goodness, I'm in awe of your talent. I really am.
You piece each of the little finials, but then you add that bias tape. So it like combines something else that, you know, try something new. Right. That's my kind of thing. And so then I have all the fabric to make this in Christmas colors. Still the fabric, not the quilt
I have
yet.
a Christmas fabric box too.
Yeah.
I love that hat, that picture.
Isn't that so funny? I know. And the picture that you used, I made that for a local challenge that our community had. We had like a contest to dress up as like the Kentucky, like you were going to the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
And so, see how my quilts, I like large scale. And so I did the same thing with the hat. I couldn't make a little hat. I had to make a gigantic one. Wow. So it's just made with cardstock and hot glue. Wow. And I created that large cardstock flower. And then I put like a bun on this side of my head. And then I used ribbon to tie the hat to hang off the other side. So my head was kind of balanced.
Cool. Okay, you said you make a lot of large quilts?
No, not large quilts, the quilts with large scale.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, do you quilt them yourself? Because for me,
I have an Anova long arm, so I do quilt all of my own quilts. But I tend to make throw size quilts because I like they are big enough to use. Like we can use them in our home, and my boys make forts with all of our quilts and all that. So they're big enough to use, but they're small enough that I don't get bored from making the thing before it's finished.
Yeah.
So I really don't make that many bed size quilts because I like to try something and finish that quilt and then move on to a new idea.
Move on. Yeah. I've gotten smaller and smaller as I get older, you know, because pushing those big quilts, I don't have a long arm. So pushing those, you know, I learned how to quilt in sections and stuff, but still they take so long. So yeah, I'm much more doing this size now than, because I can there's so many things to sew. It's so little time.
That's right. Yeah, I do still quilt on my domestic machine too, depending on the size of the project. So just last week I made, it's with the fabric. It was a panel, so it's like with the fabric by 40. It's not very big. It's just 1 yard, so like 36 by 40 or whatever. And I quilted it on my domestic because I really wanted to do really textured quilting, like a lot of following the design on the panel, because it's a scene from like the beach. So I quilted in like the waves of the water and the rocks, and I wanted to get all that texture. So I actually did it on my domestic so that I could really control a lot more of that texture as I went. Yeah,
that's how I do all my quilting now, is like I follow, like when I quilted this one, I followed every petal, every leaf, every it takes a while, but it sure looks pretty when it's finished.
That's right. It does.